Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a book review of the Trilogy by Hugh Howey. Now this trilogy comprises 3 books, obviously. The first is Wool, the second is Shift, and the third is Dust. I have the hardback editions of the 3 of them. They are some of the very few hardbacks I own. As you know, I am a paperback fan, but these are really nice in hardback, personally. The genre of the trilogy is science fiction dystopian, and the overall idea of it is fairly simple. There's been some kind of apocalyptic event. An enormous proportion of the world's population has been killed, over 95% or something ridiculous, and the survivors are now in underground silos, hence the name of the trilogy, and I'll talk about the book individually. So, the first book, Wool, starts off with a death of a character. This triggers a change for certain characters, and in particular for a character called Jules, short for Juliet. She ends up being in charge briefly. Things go wrong, and then she essentially commits a crime by accident without even realising it, and she's sentenced to death. And in the world of the silos, your death sentence is essentially what is called a cleaning. You have to wear this specialised suit which doesn't last forever, go outside, which is toxic to you, so you will die without question, and you've got to clean the camera that is viewing the world, and indeed is the only viewpoint of the inhabitants of the silo in question. Certain events happen with Jules doing the cleaning, and that's all I'm going to say, because too much more would be spoilers, of course, and I don't want to do that. The second book, Shift, is about the origins of the silos. It is set primarily in Silo 1, which is the control silo, so to speak, and you get to learn why this world exists, what caused the apocalyptic event, why the outside is so unbelievably lethal, and what the idea is for making people live in these odd underground silos for so long and just cut off. Are they going to go above ground, or are they just going to stay as some kind of underground race of humans forevermore? You get some of the answers, some of them you don't get, until you reach Book 3. Book 3, Dust, picks up after the events of Book 1, and also ties into Book 2 really heavily as well. I can't say too much about it because it will give away a plot point on the other previous 2 books, but it does follow on really well, and it's the big conclusion of the trilogy. The characters from both Wool and Shift interact more, the events continue on, and there is a conclusion which I personally thought worked really well and I was very happy with. The characters in the 3 books I think worked really well. The first character that you get to know well, of course, and indeed continues on throughout the books, is Jules. She's a strong character, an interesting character, and for me personally, it is nice to read a book where the main character is a female character rather than a male character, as a lot of science fiction and fantasy often is, or at least that's what I tend to read. So it's a nice change for me personally. The character's sense of isolation and their odd view on the world works extremely well, of course, because you know they are basically buried underground and they are so weirdly isolated, and their world is beyond what we could cope with, at least what we think we could cope with now. And the ideas in it are really, really interesting. Saying this, some of the characters do occasionally do things that really doesn't make much sense. They say things, or they'll do certain acts, and even though they are in this weird underground, fairly isolated world, you just still don't think they would do certain things, but they do. But this is only a very slight thing, and it's probably a personal viewpoint thing rather than a fault with the book, which I really did like. Now, one of the most impressive things with all 3 books is the world building. The world of the silos is really, really impressive. You get a proper sense of the history and the development of the world is not just some kind of unknown apocalyptic event happened and then everybody's underground. That's not happened. Well, in the first book it has, but you know why. And the ideas behind it are ideas that potentially could even work. Unlikely, but theoretically possible, as far as I'm aware. And this makes it far more believable and easy to get into the books, which I'm glad of because I really, really enjoyed them. Now, relating to the world building, I believe that Hugh Howey has created a foundation which is extremely useful to build on and extremely good to build on. Because this world, he can do a lot more with it if he wants to. He doesn't have to. You know, this trilogy is finished as it is. There is no loose ends left, really. So it's a self-contained trilogy, which I like. But this world is created with this apocalyptic event is still very much open, and he can write many more stories on other parts of the world. So it's a good start and a good foundation. And I'm hoping there'll be more. There is another book he's written called Sand, I believe it is. And I think, I could be wrong, but it's set in the same world as the Silos, but it's nothing to do with the Silos. It's on another side of the planet, and it's about another different group of survivors and in a desert or something. I will investigate that at a later point. So, in summary, this is a brilliant trilogy. I gave all 3 of the books 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I really, really enjoyed them a lot. The ideas in them worked well together, individually as well as the combined trilogy. There's no odd inconsistencies between the books. They flowed onto one another very, very well. One slight issue that I know some people have, which I personally didn't find, is the viewpoint does switch backward and forward quite brutally at times. One chapter will be about Jules, for instance, in the first book, and the next will be about another character on a different level of the same silo. Then it will switch back and it will just keep switching around. Second book does this again in ways even worse, and the third again. So it can be a bit odd at times to get used to. I found this quite natural for some reason. I don't know why, but this viewpoint really didn't have an issue with me. I know some people do have issues, and I can well understand why. It could be a bit peculiar to get used to. So I would recommend this to science fiction fans as well as dystopian fans, and also people who want to discover a very interesting and different type of world with really good world building. So that is the end of my review and pretty much the end of the video. If you've read these books, then please let me know in the comments below. I would be very interested to hear. The written reviews for all 3 books will be in the description below. They are on Goodreads, of course. And that really is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.